There's a moment, just before you cross into the unknown, when the air itself seems to hum with possibility. Imagine standing at the edge of a shimmering portal, the boundary between our world and something far older, far stranger, the Daedric Realms of Oblivion. The scent of aged parchment and something electric, like ozone after a storm, drifts through the air. Your heart races, not just from fear, but from the thrill of what lies ahead. Because beyond that threshold, in the ever-shifting halls of Hermaeus Mora's Apocrypha, knowledge waits forbidden, elusive, and pulsing, with a life of its own. Tonight, we step into those shadows together, and before we go any further, tell us, where in the world are you joining from? What hour has the clock struck for you as we begin this journey? Let us know in the comments below. There's something magical about realizing we're all here, scattered across time and space, yet united by the same curiosity. The Daedric realms are more than just distant planes of existence. They are reflections of their princes' wills, realms where the rules of reality bend and twist like the pages of a book left out in the rain. Apocrypha is no exception. Picture a library that stretches into infinity, its shelves not made of wood, but of living, breathing darkness. Books whisper secrets to those who dare to listen, and corridors rearrange themselves when you blink, as if the very walls are testing your resolve. This is the domain of Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince of Fate and Forbidden Knowledge. To enter here is to surrender to the unknown, to accept that some truths are not meant to be found, but for those who seek them anyway, the rewards are as intoxicating as they are perilous. What drives someone to walk such a path? Perhaps it's the same force that has always compelled explorers, scholars, and dreamers, the unshakable belief that just beyond the horizon, something extraordinary awaits. Maybe it's the promise of answers to questions no one else has dared to ask, or maybe it's simpler than that, the irresistible pull of a story yet untold. Whatever the reason, tonight we follow in the footsteps of that lone scholar, stepping into Apocrypha's labyrinthine depths. But be warned, this realm has a way of changing those who wander its halls. By the time we leave, we might not be the same as when we arrived. So take a breath, steady your nerves, and let's begin. The secrets of Oblivion are waiting. The moment the scholar's fingertips graze the tome's surface, the air thickens as if the realm itself is holding its breath. The leather isn't just warm, it moves, contracting like a living thing beneath their touch. A faint, rhythmic pulse echoes through the binding, as though the book has a heartbeat of its own. And then, with a shuddering exhale, the cover creaks open. The pages inside aren't paper, but something closer to membrane, thin and translucent, veined with ink that shifts like dark rivers under moonlight. Words don't simply sit on the surface, they slither, rearranging themselves as the scholar's eyes dart across them, as if the text is alive and watching back. A whisper rises from the pages, not in any language they've ever heard, yet somehow understood. It coils around their thoughts, insistent, hungry. Secrets spill forth, not just knowledge, but truths that fray the edges of sanity. The scholar feels it like a pressure behind their eyes, a weight that threatens to crack their mind open. One hand trembles, gripping the tome tighter, while the other rises instinctively to their temple, as if they could physically hold their thoughts together. The whispers grow louder, offering visions, a future where they wield this knowledge like a weapon, where power bends to their will, but at what cost? Here, in Apocrypha, every revelation demands a sacrifice. The scholar's breath comes ragged, their pulse roaring in their ears. They could slam the book shut, retreat into ignorance, but something in them wants this. The allure is too potent, the curiosity too deep. Teeth gritted, they choose to endure the pain, to let the secrets carve their way into memory. The ink on the pages sears itself behind their eyelids, branding them with understanding they can never unlearn. When they finally stagger back, the tome snaps shut with a sound like a satisfied sigh. Their hands shake, their vision swims, but their resolve is iron. For better or worse, they've taken the first step into a darker, deeper game, and Hermaeus Mora smiles. The scholar stumbles back as the air splits open before them, ink bleeding upward like smoke from a fresh wound. From that swirling darkness rises the Watcher, a towering silhouette wreathed in tendrils of shadow, its form studded with eyes that blink at mismatched rhythms. Each one fixes on them with unbearable focus, pupils contracting like needles, threading a thought directly into their skull. The weight of its gaze is physical, pressing down on their shoulders like a hand, forcing them to their knees. For a heartbeat, they freeze caught between instinct and defiance. The Watcher doesn't speak, doesn't move. It simply observes, and in that silence, the scholar feels something worse than threat, comprehension. Those eyes are peeling them apart, layer by layer, reading every secret they've just stolen from the tome. The realization comes like ice water. This isn't a guardian. It's a scribe, recording their trespass for its master's archives. Their breath hitches. To stand here is to surrender their mind to the Watcher's dissection. So they run. The moment their boots slap against the shifting floor, the labyrinth reacts. Hallways that were straight seconds ago now curve like spines, bookshelves tilting to form barricades or yawning open as new passages. The scholar ducks beneath a low arch of writhing ink, feeling the Watcher's gaze burn between their shoulder blades. One misstep, one glance backward, and those eyes will hook into their soul. Deeper they plunge, where the air grows thick with the scent of wet parchment, and something metallic, like old blood or rusted chains. The corridors here pulse, walls breathing in time with the scholar's frantic heartbeat. They don't know if they're fleeing toward sanctuary or a dead end, only that stopping means becoming another footnote in Apocrypha's endless chronicle. And then, a quiet, the Watcher's presence fades, though its absence is no comfort, because now, in this hollow stillness, the scholar realizes the truth. They aren't being hunted. They are being herded. Every turn, every twisting hallway has led them exactly where Hermaeus Mora wants them to go. The game was never escape. It was obedience. The bridge groans underfoot, a sound like old bones settling in a grave. Each step sends vibrations through the scholar's body, as if the structure itself is testing their worth. The planks aren't smooth. They're etched with runes that glow faintly, pulsing in time with the whispers. And oh, the whispers. They rise from the abyss below, slithering up the bridge's supports like vines, curling around the scholar's ankles. At first, they're just murmurs, fragments of languages long dead. But with every step forward, the voices grow clearer, sharper, until they're no longer just sounds, they're memories. A gasp escapes the scholar's lips as the first vision hits, A mage, robes tattered, clutching a staff splintered down the middle. His eyes are wide with terror as he stumbles backward, mouth forming a warning the scholar can't hear. Then he's gone, replaced by a knight in rusted armor, sword raised defiantly against something unseen, before he, too, dissolves into the mist. These aren't just echoes. Their last moments, imprinted into the bridge like scars. The scholar's hands tighten around the railing, or what they thought was a railing. It's not wood or metal, but something organic, something that twitches under their grip. Halfway across, the whispers change, no longer showing strangers' fates. They begin weaving the scholar's own fears into the chorus, a voice that sounds like their own whispers of failure, of becoming just another ghost in this endless archive. Another, colder and dripping with amusement, suggests turning back now, before they learn what truly waits in Apocrypha's heart. The bridge shudders, planks shifting subtly, forcing the scholar to slow their pace. It's not trying to make them fall, it's making sure they listen. By the time they reach the other side, their cheeks are wet, whether from the abyss's damp breath or their own tears, they can't tell. The whispers fade, but the weight of them lingers, clinging like cobwebs. Behind them, the bridge creaks, as if satisfied. Ahead, the path splits into three, each corridor lined with books that hum faintly, their spines glistening with something that isn't quite ink. The scholar wipes their face, squares their shoulders. They didn't cross that bridge to turn back now, but as they choose a path and step forward, one last whisper trails after them. A laughter that isn't theirs, isn't human, and isn't done with them yet. The air hangs heavy around the pool of forgotten names, thick with the scent of old ink, and something bittersweet like crushed petals left to rot. The scholar kneels at its edge, drawn by the way the water doesn't ripple, doesn't move, even as their shadow disturbs its surface. But when they peer in, it's not their own face staring back. Fractured reflections swirl beneath the glassy film. A dozen strangers' eyes, lips parted in silent pleas, hands pressed against the water's underside, as if begging to be remembered. These are the ones who came before, who drank deep and paid the price. Their names are gone, dissolved into the pool's depths, but their faces linger like ghosts in the aftertaste. A voice, soft, maternal, almost rises from the water. It doesn't speak in words, but in sensations. The warmth of a childhood home, long abandoned. The ache of a half-recalled lullaby. The promise is clear. One sip, and Apocrypha's secrets would unfold like a map in their mind. They'd understand the labyrinth's design, the Watcher's purpose, the true nature of the tomes that whisper in the dark. All it would cost is a memory, not all of them, not at first. Just one, the oldest one they have. The pool thrums with anticipation, its surface trembling as if starved for the weight of another lost name. The scholar's fingers hover above the water. For a heartbeat, they consider it. What's one memory against the weight of forbidden knowledge? But then, a flicker in the pool's depths. A face they almost recognize. Their own mother's smile, perhaps, or a friend's laughter from a lifetime ago. The image twists, warps, and is swallowed by the water before they can be sure. That's when they understand. The pool doesn't just take memories. It takes the ones that anchor you, the ones that make you you. They reel back, chest tight. The water stills instantly, its surface hardening into something almost petulant. Shadows coil at its edges, tendrils retreating with a hiss like steam on cold stone. The scholar's breath comes ragged, their throat burning as if they'd already swallowed the water and choked it back up. They won't drink, not today, not ever. But as they turn away, the pool's voice follows them, a whisper against the back of their neck. You'll return. They all do. The words carry the weight of prophecy, or perhaps just the smug certainty of a trap that's waited centuries and can wait centuries more. The bookshelves twitch before they move, a subtle warning, like the tensing of a predator's muscles. One moment, the corridor stretches open before the scholar. The next, the walls shudder inward, spines of ancient tomes, twisting like vertebrae to form a barricade. Leather bindings peel back to reveal teeth, not metaphorically, but actual jagged edges glistening with something too thick to be ink. The air vibrates with a sound like parchment being crumpled, and then the whisper comes. Not from any mouth, but from the space between breaths, as if the realm itself has decided to speak. What walks on 4 legs at dawn, 2 at noon, and 3 at evening? The scholar's pulse stutters. They know this riddle, or think they do. The answer dances on their tongue, but something feels wrong. In Apocrypha, words have weight, and a careless reply could cost more than passage. The shelves creak closer, the scent of mildew and old blood thickening. A book near their shoulder snaps its covers hungrily. Man, they breathe at last. Crawling as a babe, walking upright in life, leaning on a staff in age. Silence. Then, with a groan that shakes the floor, the shelves uncoil like satisfied serpents, revealing a new path. But the victory feels hollow, because as the scholar steps forward, the hair on their neck rises. The air here is different, charged, attentive. The books they pass no longer murmur indistinctly. Their whispers now form words, fragments of the scholar's own name. The realm has tasted their voice, their mind, and it remembers. Ahead, the corridor splits again, but this time, the left path darkens as they approach, as if shadows conspire to steer them right. The scholar hesitates. Riddles are one thing, choices are another. Every step forward is a bargain, every answer a thread sewn into Apocrypha's ever-growing tapestry. And somewhere in the gloom, the watcher's eyes blink in slow, knowing unison. The figure emerges from the gloom like a stain spreading across parchment, hooded, yes, but not in fabric. Its cloak is liquid shadow, dripping upward in defiance of gravity, tendrils curling and uncurling like smoke caught in an unfelt wind. When it speaks, the voice is neither male nor female, but the sound of a quill scratching across vellum, dry and deliberate. Lost little scholar, it asks, though the scholar never said a word. The air tastes metallic, like the moment before a storm breaks. A hand, if it can be called, that extends toward them, fingers elongated and translucent, ink swirling beneath a surface that isn't quite skin. The offer is clear, guidance in exchange for something precious. Not gold, not blood, a memory. One will suffice, the guide murmurs, and suddenly the scholar's mind is rifled through, not violently, but with the clinical precision of a librarian, pulling a volume from the stacks. A flash of warmth, sunlight through autumn leaves, the laughter of a sibling long forgotten, the scent of bread fresh from the oven. The memory crystallizes, sharp and bright, before the guide's fingers close around it. The theft is painless. That's what chills the scholar most. The obsidian door looms ahead, its surface etched with runes that squirm when stared at too long. The guide melts into the shadows at its base, but not before pressing a single Inkai fingertip to the door's center. The runes still. For a heartbeat, the scholar hesitates, mourning the stolen memory. Was it the last clear recollection of a mother's voice? A first victory. The details blur now, leaving only the hollow where something sweet once lived. Then the door groans open, revealing not darkness, but a corridor lined with mirrors. Each reflection is the scholar, yet not older here, younger there, faces twisted in agony or ecstasy in others. The guide's final gift, or perhaps its final cruelty. A glimpse of every path this choice could carve. The scholar steps forward. Behind them, the door seals shut with a sound like a book snapping closed on a pressed flower. The memory is gone, the price is paid. And the labyrinth, it's only just begun. The door doesn't creak. It sighs as if weary of the countless souls who have stood where the scholar now trembles. Its surface isn't wood or stone, but something closer to dried ink, cracked and peeling like ancient manuscript pages. A voice, neither kind nor cruel, slithers through the fissures. Speak your doubt, it murmurs, the one that coils in your belly when the candles burn low. The scholar's throat tightens. To say it aloud would give it power, make it real. But the door waits, patient as a spider in its web. The words come unbidden, a confession wrung from their lips like water from a cloth. I fear I've come this far only to learn. I was never meant to understand. The admission hangs in the air, quivering. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the door shudders, its cracks spreading like veins, and with a sound like 1,000 pages turning at once, it splits open, just wide enough to slip through. The chamber beyond defies reason. Time here isn't a river, but a storm. Fragments of moments swirl in the air like ash. A candle flickers to life on a desk that wasn't there a second ago, its flame burning blue and motionless, frozen mid-flicker. The scholar reaches out, and their fingers pass through it like smoke. Across the room, an hourglass lies shattered, its sand suspended in midair, each grain glowing faintly with trapped light. The air thrums with a question unspoken. How do you measure progress in a place where seconds stretch into centuries? Footsteps echo their own, though they haven't moved. The sound comes from everywhere and nowhere, growing louder until the scholar realizes the truth. These aren't echoes. They're Precho's footfalls from futures that haven't happened yet. A chorus of possible paths, converging in this single, fractured moment. The weight of it presses down, a reminder. Every choice here ripples backward and forward, rewriting what was and what might be. A book materializes on the desk, its cover blank. When the scholar touches it, their doubt, the very words they spoke to the door, bleeds across the parchment in their own handwriting. The ink spreads, branching into questions they've never dared to ask, fears they've buried. The pages fill themselves, not with answers, but with reflections. Every hesitation, every crossroads where they might have turned back. The chamber isn't testing their knowledge. It's testing their willingness to stand in the heart of their own uncertainty and keep moving forward. The candle's flame sputters back to life, its light now warm and golden. Time resumes its flow, but the scholar feels the shift in their bones. Something has settled, not the doubt itself, but their fear of it. The door behind them is gone. Ahead, the corridor stretches on, lined with mirrors that show not their face, but their choices. And in each one, a different version of them meets their gaze, some triumphant, some broken, all whispering the same truth. The only way out is through. The ghostly figure drifts closer, its form flickering like candle smoke, caught in a draft. Its mouth moves, but the words come out scrambled. Half a plea, half a lecture cut short centuries ago. The scholar can see the moment it realized its mistake, the dawning horror as Apocrypha's hooks sank in. Now it's neither alive nor dead, just a sentence left unfinished, a thought suspended in amber. Its fingers translucent and trembling brush the scholar's wrist, and suddenly, knowledge floods in like water through a crack. A vision. This soul was once a historian, desperate to chronicle the Daedric prince's rise. They tracked down a tome, said to hold the truth of Mehrunes Dagon's first rebellion, and then the pages closed around them like jaws. The choice hangs heavy. To sever the tether would be an act of mercy, sending this fractured soul back to whatever awaits beyond Oblivion's grasp, but to absorb its knowledge. That would mean inheriting its research, its unfinished work, the very thing that doomed it. The scholar's hands shake. They can feel the historian's panic like a second heartbeat, the way their breath had hitched when the ink started moving on its own. With a shuddering exhale, the scholar makes their decision. Their fingers find the thread, a glowing filament of silver and rust, and snap it clean. The ghost's eyes widen, its form dissolving into motes of light that spiral upward like embers from a dying fire. For a heartbeat, the chamber smells of old libraries and rain-washed stone instead of mildew and ink. Then it's over. The historian is gone, but the echo lingers. Not in the air, but in the scholar's bones. That fleeting touch left something behind, not facts or secrets, but the weight of a question the historian died trying to answer. It gnaws at them as they turn away, a shadow at the edge of their thoughts. Because the truth is this: every soul freed from Apocrypha leaves a hole in its tapestry, and Hermaeus Mora does not take kindly to loose threads. Somewhere in the shifting dark, new eyes open, the labyrinth adjusts, and the scholar walks on, lighter for their mercy and infinitely more watched. The mirror doesn't reflect, it predicts. Two scholars stand frozen in its fractured glass, each a version of the one who now faces it. The first is older, weary but wiser, clutching a single tome as they step back toward the portal home. Their eyes hold relief and something quieter, like the dull ache of questions left unanswered. The second version is harder to look at. Their skin has taken on a sickly sheen, ink-dark veins creeping up their neck, fingers twitching as if still turning invisible pages. They're hunched over a desk that wasn't there a moment ago, scribbling frantically, mouth moving in silent argument with some unseen presence. This is the fate that waits if they press deeper, not death, but dissolution, becoming just another scribe in Hermaeus Mora's endless chorus. The scholar's breath fogs the glass. The mirror isn't showing possibilities, it's showing inevitabilities, the two paths Apocrypha has already carved for them. The air thrums with expectation, as if the realm is holding its breath, waiting to see which version they'll choose. But the scholar has survived whispering tomes and living bridges. They've felt their memories peeled away like petals. This feels like the cruelest trick yet, a choice that isn't a choice at all. Their fist connects with the glass before the thought fully forms. The shatter isn't sharp but muffled, like a book slamming shut. Shards don't fall, they float, suspended in the air like pieces of a puzzle, refusing to break apart. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then, with a sound like 100 sighs, the fragments twist inward, folding over each other like origami in reverse. What reforms isn't a mirror, but a key, jagged and gleaming, its teeth shaped like half-formed runes. The scholar catches it before it can hit the ground. The metal is warm, pulsing faintly, as though whatever force binds Apocrypha together has just been rerouted through their fingertips. Around them, the labyrinth shudders. Shelves tilt precariously. Books snap their covers in agitation. For the first time since they crossed into this realm, something here is surprised. The key's purpose is unclear, its shape hinting at locks yet unseen. But one truth settles in the scholar's chest like a weight. They've just refused to play by the realm's rules, and Hermaeus Mora, the Prince of Knowledge, despises nothing more than an unanswered question. Somewhere in the dark, something vast and ancient stirs, its attention finally fixed on the mortal, daring to rewrite their own fate. The vault's door dissolves like ink in water, revealing a chamber that shouldn't exist, a space between spaces, where the walls are made of writhing parchment, and the ceiling drips with liquid letters. The key burns in the scholar's palm, its edges fusing with their skin, as if claiming them. Before them, the air thickens into something solid, coalescing into tendrils of living knowledge, each one capped with a tome that opens and closes like hungry mouths. The books whisper in unison, not with words but with understanding itself, pouring directly into the scholar's mind. They see the birth of stars, the fall of empires, the secret names of gods, all offered freely, endlessly, if they'll just let go. Hermaeus Mora's voice arrives not as sound but as pressure, a presence that folds around them like the pages of an ancient manuscript. All you seek is here, it murmurs, though the words form in their bones rather than their ears. No more stumbling through half-truths, no more doubt, only knowing. One of the tendril tomes brushes their temple, and for a heartbeat, the scholar is drowning in revelation. They see the answer to every question they've ever asked: why the Dwemer vanished, what lies beyond the void, even their own death, peaceful and distant. The vision is so vivid, so complete, that letting it slip away feels like tearing out their own heart. But then, a flicker of resistance. The key pulses in their grip, hot as a brand, and the pain grounds them. Because they recognize the trap now. This isn't enlightenment, it's consumption. To accept this knowledge is to become part of Apocrypha forever, another vessel for Hermaeus Mora's hoarded secrets. Their free will would dissolve like sugar in tea, their thoughts no longer their own. The scholar wrenches back, teeth gritted against the torrent of visions. No, they gasp, and the word is pitifully small against the weight of the Daedric prince's attention. The chamber shudders, the tendrils recoil, their tomes snapping shut with a sound like bones breaking. For the first time, the whispers cease, and then, laughter, deep, resonant, and humming with something almost like pride. Clever mortal, Hermaeus Mora croons. To refuse a gift so few could deny. The walls ripple, the vault's geometry twisting until the scholar stands not in a room, but at the edge of a precipice, staring into an abyss where countless eyes blink open in the dark. The key in their hand crumbles to ash, its purpose served. They expected fury. Instead, the voice that curls around them now is almost gentle. You've earned a different kind of answer. Not all truths need be swallowed whole. Some are best unraveled thread by thread. The ground beneath them solidifies into a bridge of living ink, leading away from the abyss, back toward the labyrinth's ever-shifting halls. The scholar steps onto it, legs trembling, mind still echoing with borrowed knowledge. They understand now. Apocrypha doesn't just reward the greedy. It honors the discerning, and Hermaeus Mora, the Prince of Fate, has all the time in the world to wait for those who walk away and inevitably return. The silence that follows the scholar's counteroffer is thick enough to choke on. The air itself seems to recoil, the whispers stuttering to a halt, as if Apocrypha has forgotten how to breathe. Hermaeus Mora's presence doesn't retreat. It condenses, pressing down like the weight of every unread book in existence. When the prince finally speaks, it's not through sound, but through sensation. The prickling of ink beneath skin, the ache of a muscle held too still for too long. You ask for the wine without the cup. The voice slithers through the scholar's thoughts, to taste the ocean, but refuse the tide. Around them, the walls of the vault ripple, pages peeling back to reveal glimpses of other mortals who stood in this very spot. Some kneeling, some defiant, all frozen mid-choice like insects in amber. One figure clutches a quill that's fused with their bones, their eyes hollow pits of ink. Another is little more than a silhouette, their outline dissolving into paragraphs of text. These are the scribes who said yes, and the ones who said no. Their absence is louder than any scream. The scholar's pulse hammers in their throat. They expected anger, bargaining, perhaps even amusement. But the stillness is worse. It gives them time to imagine the shape of eternity. Endless corridors, endless pages, their hands moving even when their mind has forgotten why. The terror of it is almost enough to make them recant, until they remember the historian's ghost, the way it crumbled into light when freed. There's another way. There has to be. Mora's laughter comes like the creak of a spine cracking open. You fascinate me, mortal, so hungry for truth, yet so unwilling to pay its price. A tendril of living ink unspools from the darkness, offering not a contract but a question. Tell me, what is knowledge worth, if not the self that seeks it? The words slither into the scholar's ears, curling around their resolve. They could lie, could claim they'd give anything, but Apocrypha knows the truth before they speak it. Their voice is raw when it finally comes. I want to remember why I came here. Even if I learn everything, what's the point if I'm no longer me to care? The moment the words leave their lips, the chamber shifts. The air grows heavier, the scent of parchment giving way to something sharper, ozone, or maybe lightning. Mora's attention sharpens, and for the first time, the scholar feels seen, not as a vessel or a scribe, but as a mind worth the challenge. The offer that comes next is softer, almost intimate. Then take only what you can carry, a single secret freely given. No chains, no vows, but know this, once tasted, my knowledge will whisper to you forever. And someday you'll return, not because I demand it, but because you'll crave the weight of what you left behind. The tendril withdraws, leaving behind a single word glowing in the air, pulsing like a heartbeat. It's a name, not a god's or a Daedra's, but their own true name, the one even they've forgotten. The scholar reaches out, fingers trembling. To take it would be to reclaim something stolen by time, by distance, by the slow erosion of memory. But names have power in oblivion. To hold yours in your hands is to hand Mora a key to your soul. They hesitate, caught between the hunger to know and the terror of being known. And in that hesitation, the realm leans closer, waiting to see what kind of mortal it's dealing with, the kind who walks away with a single truth, or the kind who stays to drown in them all. The air doesn't just thicken, it congeals, pressing against the scholar's skin like a second layer of parchment. Suddenly, the vault is gone, replaced by an infinite expanse where time fractures like glass underfoot. Visions swarm like ink, dropped into water. The scholar crowned in writhing tendrils of knowledge, armies kneeling before their wisdom, entire realms reshaped by their will. Power drips from these daydreams, sweet and heavy as honey, each fantasy more intoxicating than the last. But beneath them lurks the aftertaste, the hollow eyes of those who came before, their bodies twisted into living libraries, their screams muffled by the weight of what they'd bargained for. A whisper cuts through the chaos, sharp as a blade. Is this not what you wanted? To be more than a flicker in the dark? The voice isn't Hermaeus Mora's, but their own, warped by longing. The scholar's hands clutch at their temples, nails biting into skin, as if they could physically claw the visions out. It would be so easy to say yes. To let the knowledge carve them open and fill the hollows with something greater than mortal understanding. But then, a flicker of resistance, not defiance, but clarity. The memory of why they came here surfaces like a buoy in storm-tossed waters. Not for power, not for glory, but for the quiet, desperate need to know. To stand in the presence of truths, too vast to hold, and still walk away human. The visions waver, the crown of tendrils crumbles to dust, the kneeling armies dissolve into mist. What remains is the scholar, shaking but steady, their breath ragged but their resolve iron. The silence that follows isn't defeat, it's appraisal. The air shifts, the pressure lifting like a hand withdrawn at the last moment. Hermaeus Mora's presence coils around them, not in anger, but something eerily close to respect. Interesting, murmurs the voice, and for the first time, it sounds almost pleased. Most come here to be remade. You came to remain yourself. The admission hangs between them, a revelation as sharp as any secret the vault could offer. When the scholar finally opens their eyes, they're back in the vault, knees pressed against the cool, ink-stained floor. Their body aches as if they've fought a battle, their mind humming with the echoes of what they've refused. But they're still here, still whole, and somewhere in the labyrinth's shifting depths, a door clicks open, not the one they entered through, but another, smaller, quieter. An exit, or perhaps just the next page in a story far from over. The moment the scholar speaks their question, the air turns to syrup, thick, suffocating, pressing against their lips as if trying to force the words back down. Hermaeus Mora's laughter is a rustle of parchment, dry and endless. You ask for the first page, the prince murmurs, when even I have forgotten the hand that wrote it. The vault trembles, shelves buckling inward, as though the realm itself is recoiling from the question. Then pain, not the sharp sting of a blade, but the slow, insidious burn of ink, seeping into an open wound. The answer pours into the scholar's mind, not as words but as being, as if their skull has cracked open to make room for something too vast to comprehend. They see it, the birth of Apocrypha, not as a place, but as a thought, the first secret ever kept, the first truth ever twisted. a primordial whisper between gods, a pact scribbled in the dark before time had meaning. The weight of it is unbearable. The scholars' knees hit the ground, their hands clawing at their temples as the vision unfolds like a flower made of knives. Towers of living text rise from an abyss of unformed ideas, writhing tendrils of knowledge knitting themselves into walls, into corridors, into a prison for every truth too dangerous to share. And at the center of it all, a presence not yet Hermaeus Mora as mortals know him, but something rawer, hungrier, shaping itself around the act of knowing like a hand around a quill. The scholar gags, choking on the aftertaste of revelation. Their vision blurs, edges darkening as the library itself revolts against the trespass. Books snap shut in unison, shelves twist away, denying them passage. The air thickens into tar, forcing them toward the exit with the inexorable push of a tide. They stumble, half blind, their minds still ringing with the echo of that first, terrible secret. Apocrypha was never meant to be explored. It was meant to grow. Every mortal who steps inside, every stolen memory, every whispered question, it all becomes another brick in the labyrinth, another page in the prince's endless book. The last thing they see before the portal swallows them is the Watcher's dozens now, lining the halls like sentinels, their countless eyes gleaming with something almost like pity. The scholar's fingers scrabble at the edges of reality, desperate to hold on, but the choice was made the moment they asked. Truth has its price, and as the void between realms rushes up to meet them, they realize the cruelest jest of all. They can still hear the whispers, faint but insistent, curling through their thoughts like smoke. Apocrypha doesn't let go, it just waits. The corridor contracts like a lung exhaling, walls pulsing inward as if trying to crush the scholar mid-stride. Their boots skid across living parchment, the floor buckling beneath them as Apocrypha fights to keep its prize. Behind them, the Watchers glide forward, not running, not chasing, but unfolding, their Inkai limbs elongating to bridge the distance with terrifying ease. The air reeks of ozone and desperation, the portal's glow flickering ahead like a dying star. So close, fingers graze the scholar's cloak, cold, wet, seeping through fabric to brand their skin with phantom runes. They don't look back, can't. One glimpse of those hollow eyes, and their legs might freeze mid-step, roots of doubt tangling around their ankles. The portal wavers, its edges fraying like burnt paper. No time for grace. They hurl themselves forward, arms outstretched, the stolen knowledge burning like a coal in their chest. Impact, not the clean slice of crossing a threshold, but the visceral tear of reality resisting. For a heartbeat, they are neither here nor there, suspended in the between space where the laws of oblivion claw at their heels. Something snaps, a tendril, a tether, maybe a piece of their own soul, as the portal seals behind them with a sound like a vault slamming shut. Silence, real, earthly silence, broken only by their own ragged gasps. The scholar crumples to hands and knees, trembling as the weight of what they've done crashes over them. The knowledge sits heavy in their mind, too vast, too alive, its edges still twitching like a fresh wound. They press a palm to their sternum, half expecting to feel ink squirm beneath their skin. But the flesh is unmarked, for now, dawn light filters through distant trees, painting the grass in gold. It's over, they're free, except somewhere, deep in the marrow of their bones, the whispers persist. Not loud, not yet, just a hum, a itch behind the eyes, the unmistakable sense of being watched. Because Apocrypha never truly lets go, it simply waits for the scholar to miss its embrace. And when they do, the next page of their story is already being written. The scholar's quill hovers over the parchment, its tip trembling like a leaf in a storm. The words should flow freely. They've spent lifetimes in their mind, after all, but the moment ink meets paper, something shifts. The letters don't just dry, they writhe, twisting into shapes no human hand could form. A sentence about the watchers bleeds into the page like spilled ink, only to recoil when the scholar reaches to blot it. As if alive, their breath catches. This isn't transcription, it's translation, and the language of Apocrypha refuses to be caged. Nights blur into a cycle of fevered scribbling and frustrated erasures. The scholar's desk becomes a battleground, strewn with crumpled pages, each one bearing the ghost of a truth too restless to hold. Once, in the small hours before dawn, they wake to find their own hand moving without them, scrawling symbols they don't recognize in margins they don't remember leaving blank. The ink glistens wet, though the pen lay untouched for hours, and the whispers, oh, the whispers, no longer confined to dreams, they coil through waking hours like smoke, threading through the rustle of turning leaves, the drip of rain on cobblestones. Even silence carries their weight now. A neighbor finds them one morning, slumped over their work, forehead pressed to a page where the ink has pooled into something unsettlingly like an eye. The concern in the neighbor's voice is distant, muffled, as if heard through water. The scholar tries to explain, but their tongue trips over syllables that twist midair, coming out garbled, alien. They watch the neighbor's face pale, watch their footsteps retreat too quickly. Isolation settles like a second skin, and then the dreams deepen, not fragments now, but full immersions. The scholar stands again in Apocrypha's halls, not as a visitor, but as something between. The books recognize them, their spines arching like cats seeking affection. The watchers no longer pursue, they nod, as if to an equal. Each morning, the scholar wakes with a mouthful of syllables that taste like rust and honey, with memories of corridors that weren't there yesterday. The line blurs. Is it recollection or invitation? The final straw comes when they find the first page of their manuscript rewritten in their absence. The words are perfect, clear, precise, everything they struggle to capture, but the handwriting isn't theirs. The ink is too black, the letters too precise, as if shaped by a hand with too many joints. The scholar stares at it, heart pounding, and realizes the terrible truth. Apocrypha isn't just in their mind, it's using them as a conduit, writing itself into the world one stolen moment at a time. And the most chilling part, somewhere beneath the fear, beneath the revulsion, a part of them thrills at the thought. After all, what is a scholar, if not a vessel for knowledge no matter the cost? The scholar's hand hesitates over the final page, the weight of their journey pressing down on the quill like an unseen hand. The warning they've poured onto parchment feels insufficient. How can mere words capture the hunger of a realm that reshapes itself around your fears? Yet they press on, etching each caution with deliberate strokes, as if the ink itself could form a ward against Apocrypha's pull. The last sentence takes shape. Do not seek what cannot be unlearned. A sigh escapes them, shoulders loosening for the first time in months. It's done, then. The drop, black as the space between stars, It falls not from the quill, but from nowhere, splattering across the parchment with a sound like wet fingers snapping. The scholar recoils as the ink moves, slithering outward in branching veins, until it resolves into a rune they've never seen yet know instinctively, the mark of the Watcher. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of old paper, and something darker, something alive. The rune pulses once, twice, as if breathing, before the page beneath it begins to dissolve, edges curling inward like petals touched by flame. Panic claws up their throat. They reach to smother the spreading stain, but the moment their fingers make contact, the ink leaps, not onto their skin, but into it, seeping beneath their nails like liquid shadow. A shudder racks their body as the whispers return, not distant now but intimate, a chorus of voices murmuring just beneath their skull. You thought it ended. The words coil around their thoughts, amused. Stories like ours have no endings, only pauses. The manuscript lies ruined, its final warning devoured by the very force it sought to describe. The scholar staggers back, clutching their hand to their chest, but the damage is done. The rune isn't on the page anymore. It's in their veins, in their breath, in the way the candlelight suddenly casts their shadow too sharp against the wall, a silhouette not quite their own. Outside, the wind rises, rattling the window pane in a rhythm that matches the whispers. Somewhere, in the space between heartbeats, a door clicks open. Not a physical one, but the kind that lives in the corner of your vision, the kind you only notice when you've already stepped through. The scholar's reflection grins in the darkened glass. Their lips don't move. The rune pulses in the scholar's palm, its edges writhing like smoke caught in an updraft. It shouldn't feel warm. Ink and parchment don't hold heat, yet it radiates a feverish energy, as if the symbol itself is breathing. Their fingers twitch with the urge to fling it away, but something stays their hand. Not curiosity, not an amour, recognition. This mark isn't just a remnant of Apocrypha, it's a covenant. A door left ajar. Around them, the world goes unnaturally still. The candle's flame freezes mid-flicker. Dust motes hang suspended in the air. Even the wind outside seems to hold its breath. In that suspended silence, the scholar hears it, the faintest rustle of pages turning, though no book lies open. The whispers aren't in their mind now. They are in the walls, in the grain of the wood, beneath their fingertips, in the spaces between heartbeats. Apocrypha hasn't let go. It's simply changed the terms of their entanglement. They press the book shut with trembling hands, but the rune lingers, burned into their vision like the afterimage of a lightning strike. When they close their eyes, it's there, glowing against the darkness, its lines shifting subtly each time they look away. A question forms unbidden. Is this how it begins for all of Mora's chosen? Not with a grand possession, but with a slow, insidious merging. The scholar's reflection in the window grins again, wider this time, teeth too sharp, eyes too dark. The rune isn't a scar, it's an invitation. Dawn breaks, painting the room in gold and shadow. The ordinary sounds of the world return birdsong, distant voices, the creak of floorboards. The scholar exhales, running a hand through hair that feels thicker, stranger, as if strands of ink have woven themselves into the roots. They should be afraid. Perhaps they are, but beneath the fear thrums something else, something that terrifies them more, anticipation. Because the truth is this: they've tasted the depths of oblivion, and the surface world will never be enough again. The book on the desk remains closed, but its spine hums faintly, a vibration that matches the rhythm of the rune's glow. Some stories don't end. They just wait for the right moment to turn the page.
you.